Hi there, thanks for stopping by. I wanted to talk something about gazing upon the Lord. I came across this verse from Psalms 34, and verse 5 tells, gaze upon him, join your life with his, and joy will come. Your faces will glisten with glory. You will never wear that shame face again. Amen. That's an amazing verse. We read from Psalms. Of course, it's written by David. And the funny thing is, this is a psalm that David writes while he was escaping from his son Absalom, and he's pretending to be an insane man. Amazing, isn't it? If you read the first few verses, he's acting like an insane man. And if you read the first few verses, he's saying, thank God, rejoice with him, for he has done mighty things, for he has delivered me in the past, he's going to do it again, and all those things. Let's make his name glorious, listen to my testimony. It's amazing how he was able to carry that mindset. Imagine, you are the king of a nation such as Israel, and you are a man after God's own heart. The whole kingdom loves you and all that. The history, right, with David. And here we see, his kingdom is being invaded, or his own son Absalom wants to dethrone him from his kingdom and to take over the powers. And at that moment, David had no other way to do so. He's acting like an insane man, and he's escaping. And at that time he writes this psalm, and look at the way he is, the joy of his heart. Look at the joy he was able to carry even in the midst of a trouble like that. So it begs the question, what made him to do that? How he was able to love the Lord with all of his heart even at a crisis time like that. So if you read the psalm, it is such a wonderful psalm, and especially the Passion translation, it's even more beautiful. And so this was the verse I was meditating upon for the past week. Gaze upon him. Okay, it says gaze upon him, but in some other versions it says they who looked up to him. Okay, looking up to the Lord, their faces were become radiant. That's what we read in some of the other versions. So what exactly does it mean to look up to him? Okay, so uh, for us when we say I've looked up to the Lord always in times of help, and although and all those, uh, naturally it is like, okay, I will go and talk to him in prayer. I will tell my troubles to him. I will ask him to do something. I will ask him to help me in times of my need. It basically, when you say, when I look up to him, it means uh, you're going to tell things, or it means you're going to take your need to him in prayer. But when what David here talks about is entirely different from that. It's not just looking up to him, it's not looking up to him for help. He's saying gaze upon him, gaze upon him. So before before we come to that gazing upon his face, there are two more levels that we need to cross, or two more levels that we need to be well versed in, so that we can come up to this level. Because as I told you, the troubles that David was going through, in spite of that, he was able to come here and say, he was able to come to a place of uttermost dependence of God, and he's saying, I'm just going to gaze upon him. So as per my understanding, and as per my knowledge, as per what I think, the first step, there are levels in our spiritual life. There are levels that we need to be crossing over. And the first level that I think at the base of all this, when it comes to, when we are on the uh, journey of reaching a place like David did, where we can just sit in his presence and gaze upon his face. That's what David is talking about. So if you want to reach that level of utter dependence of him, the first step, I would say, or the first level I would say, that we need to put our steps in uh, is the knowledge of God. Is that, do you know him? You have to know him uh, as your own, father, as your own friend. Okay, so when you say you need to know God, the basic thing is, it's talking about knowing him in a personal way, encountering him in a personal way. so much so that you know him through experience. Okay, that's the experience, the knowledge that comes through experience. That's what I'm talking about. I'm just not talking about the head knowledge that we have about God. We say, yes, I know about God, but there is a difference between knowing about God and knowing God personally. So that's the first level that we need to attain. Okay, so and upon that level, the next level that we need, because I'm not going to go deep into how to know God and all those, but as I told you, knowing God is not our head knowledge, but it is something that comes through experience, something that knowledge comes through experiencing God in a certain way, just like David had experienced. So that comes at the base of it, and above that, the next level that we need to strive to reach is having awareness of God's goodness in our lives. Okay, once you start knowing Him, the next thing that you need to step into is having an awareness of God's presence in your life, having an awareness of God's goodness in your life all the time. That is very, very important, because David did, and upon that level, after that second level comes gazing upon him. Okay, we read that David gazed upon the Lord in the midst of the troubles. So before he reached that level, what he did was he knew God in a way like no other did, even in that times of even in that times where the new covenant hasn't been established yet. So we need to have that knowledge of God. We need to know God at the starting point, and upon that, the next level that we need to have is having an awareness of God's presence in our lives. David was aware of David was always having that awareness of God's presence in his life, because we read in the earlier Psalms where he talks about the Lord is at my right hand, the Lord is before me, I have kept the Lord before me at all times. Okay, that doesn't mean he had a picture of the Lord or a statue of the Lord in front of him. It means in his mind, in his awareness, okay, in his world of awareness, God was always present. He did not encounter anything. He did not approach a problem. He did not approach a relationship without having that awareness of God's presence in his life. He knew that he was carrying the presence of God. It's amazing, because in the old covenant itself, he had such an awareness of what was about to come. So because of these two things, he was able to get to a place of gazing upon his face even in the times of trouble. Gazing upon his face in the sense having a face-to-face relationship, that is experiencing the glory of God in our lives, experiencing the tangible glory, the manifest glory in our lives. That's the thing that David is talking about, because he says, I gaze upon him and his life flows into me, and my face is becoming radiant, and I will not put on a shame face again. My face will not be put down again, because I'm gazing upon him and his face is shining upon mine, and my face is going to shine because of that. So what does that mean is the glory, the same manifest glory that was there when Jesus with his disciples went to the mountain, in the Mount of Transfiguration, where his face shone, right? The same glory that David is talking about here. So this is what I wanted to bring it to your attention. So we need to strive to reach that level of gazing upon him face to face, to long for his glory, to carry that glory, to carry that manifest glory in our lives. But before we can reach that place of manifest glory, before we can come to that place where we can gaze upon him, we need to cross over two levels. What are those two levels? As I said, is the knowledge of God, knowing God in a personal way, knowing God through your personal experiences with him. And the next level is to have an awareness of God's presence in our lives, to be aware of God's presence in our life, and and also the truth that God is always good, that he never does any evil in our lives, but is always good. So with these things, with these three things in your mind, if you go and read the incident where David meets Goliath, you will see that the first time when he comes and encounters Goliath, he says, hey, who is this man? Who is this man coming against the army of the Lord? How he was able to say that? Because of his awareness of God's presence in his life. He knew that God is with him. Okay, so because he carried that awareness of God with him, he was able to come and confront the Philistine and say that, he's nothing before God. That's one thing. Next thing is when Saul when he goes and meets Saul, and Saul says, "Hey, you cannot do it. You are a small boy. You cannot face this giant." And David again goes to his knowledge, or he uses the first level that I told you, knowing God through personal experiences. He says, "Once there was a lion, and the other time there was a bear that attacked my sheep, and I was able to rescue them both the times." So this guy will be same like those animals. So how he was able to do that? Because he had that knowledge of God, because he knew God in such a way that that his God will deliver him. Doesn't matter whether it's a lion or a bear, or even such a giant like Goliath. So I hope you're getting the point. So